Hello and welcome back to Dream Girl. I'm Sheen, your host, and today's episode is brought to us by Muzz, the leading Muslim marriage app. Today I'm joined by an incredible guest. I'm joined by Dr. Amina Yonis. Amina is a dear friend of mine. She's recently moved from London to the UAE, and she's a PhD turned into content creator and the founder of The Page Doctor, and she's here to tell us all about things to do with marriage and work as well a little bit. We'll see. Hi Amina, how are you?
Hi, thank you for inviting me here. I'm so excited to be here. I've literally watched every episode, so I'm so excited to be in front of the camera now.
So Amina, first of all, I want to say thank you, because since you've moved, I think you've been extremely pivotal in helping me with work and strategizing, and I think you do that so beautifully. And I love how you approach everything to do with your business, and you moved here with your husband and your kids, and you have your own business that you run, plus you have the content creation, and now you're basically the AI queen, right, of YouTube. So tell us, how are you finding it, having recently moved here? How long has it been now?
It's been exactly 6 months.
Oh my goodness.
I literally moved 6 months last week. That's how long it's been.
Wow.
Yeah, but you know what? It feels like a short time, but I've done so much. I've moved countries, which is in itself a massive thing. Started set up the business here, so now I have a business license here, which obviously takes time. Obviously made friends, found a place to live, got a car, all of these things that I just haven't done in the UK. I've managed to do it here in just 6 months, so it feels like a long time, but actually not. I've done quite a bit.
Yeah, so do you like the decision of moving?
So far, yeah, we're here on a 1-year trial. So we said to ourselves, let's just get a 1-year visa. Let's come out here for a year. If we absolutely hate it, go back home. That was the deal. If we hate it, we go back home.
Okay.
And we were here for 2 months, I think it was, and we were like, yeah, let's set up the business. Can we buy a house? What's the next step?
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, being in the UAE, I'm in Sharjah, so obviously I'm just next door Dubai.
Mm-hmm.
But being here, you just feel at home so quickly. It's very weird. I was born and raised in London, so I never thought I'd find anywhere else that I felt so at home. Mm-hmm. But here, of course, I have no family here, but minus that, it honestly feels like home. It's so weird.
It is weird, isn't it? Yeah. For me, it was the same thing. After the 6 months mark, yeah. I went home, and I came back. Yeah. I was on holiday, and I remember when I flew into Dubai airport, I felt like I'm coming home. And I was like, that's crazy. It's been 6 months. I remember in the UK, it took me a year or two to start feeling like this is home. But here, I feel like it's accelerated, which is a great thing. Yeah.
I just came back from Ethiopia, which is where my parents come from. My grandma's there. My whole family basically lived there. And when we came back and landed, like you said, we just felt like we were back at home. And we actually both said in the car, it was 6 a.m. driving back from the taxi from the airport. And we were like, this feels like we're at home, but it also feels like a holiday. Home is also a holiday, which is the perfect balance.
Right,
in my opinion.
The perfect balance.
It's the perfect balance.
Okay, so Amina, you have 2 kids. How old are the babies now?
4, and one's 3 next month.
Wow, mashallah. So how long have you been married for now?
7 years next month as well.
So you must have been really young when you got married, right?
I mean, what's young? I was 26. So, I mean, that's young, but
that is young.
It's not young.
It's not young,
but it's young.
But not child bride young.
It's not child bride.
So would you recommend people getting married young?
You know what, like I said, young is different to everyone. In our culture, maybe the Muslim religion or ethnic culture, 21, 22 is young. Is a good age. Whereas in the British, in the white British culture, that's child bride. 26 is young, right? So it depends on who we're talking about and what young means. But I think I was of a perfect balance of, I had finished my degrees, I had lived my life, I had traveled by myself, all that stuff that you say you should do before you get married. But then I was still young enough to be able to mold and build with my partner. Because I think if I had got married now, when I had maybe bought a property already, or I've moved countries already, I now have to fit this person in my life and vice versa. So I think it was a nice young age, but also old enough that I knew myself, how I was developed. My frontal cortex was developed. You know what I mean? How it was good. And then I got married.
What age is that? 25, right?
I think something like that. Yeah, something like that. So I'm good. I knew myself. I had all that fun. And I was now I'm ready to settle down.
So is that, if we were to dig a little deeper here, how did you know you were ready? Because a lot of people don't know what it means when you say, "Are you ready?"
I don't know, I feel like I had done everything that I wanted to do by myself. And I was ready to do the next chapter with someone else. Like, I had lived by myself at university. I had lived in Canada for a few months during my PhD. Like, I had lived in London with my parents during my master's and my PhD. I had traveled with my friends, like with my sisters. So I had done all the things that I feel like, okay, cool, I've done that now. Like, I'm good. And now I want to do life and build to the next things, like, get a car and get a house and have kids, and that I want to do with someone. So I was like, I'm ready to get married, like I'm ready to like be with a partner. So that was kind of but it wasn't like a mentor. I wasn't like looking for someone. Right. Yeah.
So then how did you actually meet?
It's such a funny story, and it's like when I think about it till today, I'm like, it was divine intervention. Like, I was on Twitter. And this is before, like, I wasn't even really on social media back then.
I think, just for context, Amina lives on Twitter.
Lived on, I don't know. I schedule everything, so it looks like I post. Yeah.
But yeah, I know. But I still feel like you are always on Twitter, just because you schedule. I haven't opened the app in 2 weeks. I schedule everything, so it looks like I post every day. But I don't. I love it. You know, when you Google it's just all your tweets that come up.
I don't go on Twitter. I never actually. If you look at my replies, it's not it's not me. It's just
tell people that.
Sorry. It's the reality of social media. No, there's no way you can be in every platform.
No, you can't.
There's actually no physical way. But yeah, no, I was in Twitter. I had just opened a Twitter, I think like a few months before that, 2016 or 17, I think it was. And I was just using it for like educational purposes, following like news, whatever. And that was also his only social media as well. So we'll come back to like something you look out for in a guy, or that's something. Yes. That was his only social media. So anyway, he was there. No name, no face, no case. Like, it was like that. Like, there was nothing that could... There was nothing. There's no reason for me to click on his profile, send him a message. There was nothing. There was literally, like I said, no name, no picture. There was nothing. For some reason, I clicked on his profile. It said, like, I live in, like, Londoner, Eritrean. I'm Ethiopian, so, like, we're neighbours. So I clicked on his profile and I sent him a message. And he was following me because I was, like, talking about education, whatever. So I clicked on his profile. I sent him a message saying, hey, I noticed you live in London and you're Eritrean. I don't have any like other Eritrean Ethiopian friends. Hi. And that was literally where it began.
Wow.
Yeah. And we started talking. He lived in London. Whatever. We were talking. And 3 months later, was it 3 months later? We were married.
Wow. Yeah. So would you say, let's talk a little bit about this, right? Because first of all, I love that you took the initiative, right? There's nothing wrong with women taking the initiative. But there's also this notion of halal dating, right? Which is exactly what you did. Yeah. Do you think it's still realistic for us to hope for scenarios of halal dating in the modern times?
I think again, the topic of halal is so subjective because what one person thinks is okay, another one doesn't, right? So even me sending a message, someone would be like, that's not okay. But again, I didn't send it in that intention. Like, my intent was, I don't actually know any other Eritreans and Ethiopians. I lived in East London. There aren't many in East London. They're kind of all in West London. So I was like, I don't know anyone else that comes from the same like culture and background as me. So when I saw that, I was like, ooh, that's someone that's from a similar background to me. Let me be friends. I didn't even know, to be honest, I don't even know if I thought male or female. Like, I just thought the same culture as me. I didn't even know what the background was or like anything. So like I said, divine intervention, because it genuinely was not like a targeted attack. I wish it was, but it actually wasn't, it was just, let me just be friends with someone who's from the same culture as me.
Yeah.
And that was kind of where it began. And then, but I think you definitely can do things in a halal way, like where you're, meeting in public places, you're kind of telling someone, a sibling, whatever, like what you're doing, who you're talking to, things like that. And also just keeping things short and sweet. This whole like kind of courtship for like years on end, I feel like things go wrong when you do that, because you end up in a situation where you're really comfortable with each other and you don't necessarily want to settle down. But when you look at the person, you're like, you know what? This person has no red flags. I can see a life with this person. They tick my boxes. You've asked all the right questions. What's the delay? And that's kind of how we did it. We just thought, what's the delay? We had no wedding. We just had, we just had nikah in my parents' house. Okay. And that was it.
Wow.
Set sail, literally. Like, that was literally, and when you make things, I feel like the more simple you do things in general in life, I feel like the easier sometimes it is. And like the less stress there is, it just was so chill. Yeah, it's a thing. You have to plan for like a year, and you save for a year. Like it's just we're just like let's just do it. Let's just we don't want. I don't care for anything else. I don't even wear my ring. Like I don't like. It's just it's not about those. Those are material like worldly things. No, it's not about that. It's marriages don't last 50 years because you had a big wedding. You know, they last 50 years because the foundations were right, and that's kind of what our like mindset was.
I like that. So this is where I need you to share your wisdom with us a little bit. You know, when it comes to when you're getting to know somebody for marriage, as you said, it's all about setting really strong foundation. What are the things that we should be looking for? Because I feel like in our generation, we look for all the wrong things, right?
6 foot. This car. 6'5". I mean, I'm 5'2", so anything over 5'5", I'm good. But I have 6 foot, so it's okay.
Exactly. So you still did it. Anyway, tell us.
I think, you know, for me, the first thing was honestly education. And I say education not in a, because obviously I have a PhD, so it's not, I didn't care for PhD specifically, but more just a guy who was educated in some way. So that means, having a university qualification, but also educated in like the world. So maybe has lived alone, maybe has traveled alone, maybe like has done something that has meant that the skill set, like communication skills, like people skills, things like that. I feel like that's really important because it means that in future, if anything were to happen, he can problem solve because of the skills that he gained from university. Like he can put that into his life, you know, like, or he can analyze data, right? Which you learn at university. But then in life, you kind of need to do that too, right? Be critical about things. You do that at university, but you also do that in life. So there's so many skills that you learn in university that you can actually bring into life as well. So for me, education is a big one. At any level and any degree, so it doesn't really matter.
So would you say that's intellectual compatibility?
Yeah, right? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. But like I said, doesn't matter if you have the same. I'd actually rather the person didn't have the same degree as me, so we're not in the same
Don't
field.
Fact check what I'm saying.
No, exactly. Just different is fine. And it's actually interesting when it's different.
Right.
Like you can talk about different things and you can bring different things to the table. But that was definitely a big one. And then just general compatibility. Can you just talk? Can you just like have a laugh? When you go to like a restaurant, this whole like 50-50 thing, like, it's not, you're just making something so simple, so complicated. It doesn't, I'm not going to sit there and wait for you to pay for me or wait for this person to pay for me. It's like as a guy, you might just want to pay. And sometimes as a girl, you might just want to treat your husband, and it's okay. Like it's not that deep.
It's not about expectations.
And it doesn't mean that he loves you less because he doesn't pay. Like it doesn't always mean that. So these things that you see on social media, I feel like they're just blown out of proportion. And 99.9% of the time, the people saying it are not even married. You're not even there yet. What are you? You know.
I don't think you have like proven the.
It's like zero. You haven't made it to the finish line.
Where's the proof?
What's the proof? So yeah, it's basically anything you see online, throw that in the bin. Don't do that. I think also just having like a natural feeling. This person, like I said, I got to know my husband in 3 months, which I would not recommend because that's too short, right? A little bit more might be good, but if you.
There's no right amount, right?
There's no right amount. We spent quite a lot of, like, he was working very close to my university, like literally in the same street, near UCL. So we were seeing each other in the evenings, like just in the cafe. I was doing some thesis writing. He was doing something else. So like we spent some time together in the evening. So I was like, you know what? I know this person now. Like I've got to know them enough. There's no more that I can get to know this person without actually living with them. Right. You know, there's actually no more that we can go at this point. So let's just live together. Let's just get married and, we'll, you know, hopefully, like also inshallah. There's also a lot of inshallah, you know, like if Allah wills that it'll be a good relationship, then it will be. Yeah. You know.
So I agree, and I think another thing I want to ask you is, you know, when you're getting to know someone, how long do you wait before you bring out the big guns? You know, because obviously at the start you talk a lot about your family, your values. You will talk about faith, you know, and see if you're compatible on that level. But then big guns. I mean, you know, one very sensitive topic is finances. Mm-hmm. How quickly do you bring that up, and how do you bring it up in a way where it's completely transparent and respectful as well? Because I asked you this because, you know, when I was preparing for this podcast, I was just talking actually to like people outside, and then someone mentioned being like, you know what question you should figure out because I need this answer is what to do when the girl earns more than the boy. How do you approach that sensitive topic where you're breaking the stereotypes of gender roles and stuff? So please tell us. Money chat.
Can I just say, most of my friends, that the girl earns more than the guy, but the guy still earns a decent amount, so it's not like he's not earning. But don't be fooled, a lot in this day and age, girls actually earn quite a lot. So don't think it's abnormal for that situation to be the case. I think the financial talk came in quite early, but it wasn't like in an unnatural way. So I think we were just talking in general about, I think I was asking something to do with like, would you want to buy a house? You know, what are your views on like purchasing, mortgage, how quickly would you want to? Do you want, like, we're going to rent out first, of course, and then, you know, kind of what are the next steps? And naturally, the question comes in, like, how much do you earn? Because you need to kind of know, like, if you're on 20K, we can't really get a mortgage on that, you know? Like, so you kind of need to know, like, numbers, like, what could be possible. And then if you manage your expectations kind of thing, you know, it's 20K is fine, but that means we're probably not going to be able to buy a house.
Yes.
Right? So it's important to be realistic with these kind of things. So, knowing, like, asking questions like that, asking questions about savings in the past, like, or even things like, who do you support? Do you give money to your parents? That's absolutely fine. But knowing that, you know, from his salary, 30% is going to his parents. Like, if that's something you're not happy with, you know that, you know, and these are, I don't think they're bad questions to ask because ultimately, especially, like, we believe that his money is our money, right? Right. So it's important to know where our money is going to be
where's
going.
Our money going?
Where's it going? And like I said, this is not, it shouldn't be a deal breaker, but it's something that you know, and you're going into a marriage knowing, you know? So, and it wasn't really, like, it didn't take time to get these questions out. It's just one little sit down in the park, ask some questions, and you walk away. Like, that's, you know, the answers, and that's the end of that story. I know people that, like, would ask for, like, bank statements and, you know, paycheck. Like, you can, if you really want to do your
if you want
due diligence, you can go there, but yeah, there's an element of trust as well.
Yes,
you know?
exactly.
And yeah, I think.
Okay, so what would you say about the whole disparity when it comes to if a woman is earning more? How can they approach that situation so that, I don't know what I'm asking here, but I feel like I'm asking is, how do you manage the male ego?
This is the thing. So if you've chosen a male without that kind of ego, it's not in fact, he will champion that. He will, like, look, my wife is strong, is a leader, is X, Y, and Z. But also, let's think realistically, at some point you might have kids, and you might actually, that money is not going to be, like, you're not going to be making money for a little while, right? So is his salary enough to support you? Right. So you have to be realistic also, like, if you're on, let's say, 70K and he's on, again, 20K, we're stuck in this 20K. If he's on 20K, let's just say he's on 20K and you're on 70K, right? That 20 can't support you if you've got a mortgage and a car and a house and childcare. No. So you have to be realistic and be like, look, if there will come a point where I can't work, so you need to get a better job, or we have to be realistic about these things, even if you're okay with that situation and he's okay with it. There'll come a point where it's not really a choice. Right. So as a woman, you kind of have to be smart and remember that a marriage is not only a partnership, but also, like, your biggest financial decision legal decision that you'll make. Because at the end of the day, once you're legally married, it's all tied up together, right? So, yeah, it's really important, and you should have those conversations and, like, write them down and note them somewhere so, like, you know what that looks like, you know?
I agree. And I love that you touched on, you know, the whole 50-50 situation. So let's talk about that a little, because, you know, I'll give you, like, a for instance. So I once was talking about this with friends, right? And I said that I have pretty much the same stand as you. If someone wants to go 50-50 and it's early days, I don't overthink this. I'm like, why should he invest in me? We don't know where this is going, right? Let's see. But from a husband, I would not expect 50-50. From a husband, I feel like it's a partnership. You are the provider, sure. But, like, I don't mind. Like, it's not my money, your money. It's very much like, let's pool the funds together and see how we're building a life together, right? So that's different. But then the conversation geared a little bit more towards the fact that some Muslim men think that Muslim women take this and run with this, that, you know, the man is the provider and this is a way for them to now become rich, like a quick rich solution, because now the man will pay for everything and their money stays their money and they don't have to spend it, or they don't want to work anymore. So then that's the early retirement plan, which I love personally. And they were like, so then they were very unhappy about that situation. And the argument that you hear a lot is, today's time, life is too expensive for the household to run on one income. So we need a 2-income household. So the woman has to work. And I strongly disagree with that statement, right? Because as I'm sure you're going to tell us a bit more, but as a woman, as you said, you are the one who have to get pregnant. Your career takes a hit. You have to take a break. You need to look after your kids. And even if you go back to work, I have a friend who's going back to work now after 1 year. She still has to pump, you know, like there's a lot of things that come with it. And not only does your career get affected by this, but also you personally, your attention is now split, right? So to expect and put that expectation on a woman that either way you have to contribute to the household is just a very different conversation. And I don't think it's what Islamically we were told to do anyway. So please share your wisdom.
I mean, there's obviously two sides to this. There's the Islamic side, which, like you said, we don't have to contribute at all, right? We like, I have the right to say tomorrow, that's it, I'm done.
Yeah.
Like, putting my feet up, like
retired.
And I absolutely can do that.
Yeah.
And as a man, my husband has to say, okay, you know, that like that's fine. And I have the right to say, actually, no, I want to continue to work, and I also want to keep that money. Like I can,
yes.
right? But I just think, again, it comes back down to that, like in reality, in a relationship, that's just not how it functions. And it's just like, it's one of those like social media talks that in reality, like you're married to this person, you're going to share everything. I'm not going to say, well, I've made 100K this year.
That's my money.
Buy. Like, you know, I'm going to buy something.
I'll spend it on me.
Yeah, I'm going to get my own sofa that you can't touch. You know, like what are you doing with this? What are you doing with this money? I don't, you know.
Where are you going with that money?
If you're investing or whatever, I don't know. But
it's for the family.
So you're going to struggle at home because you don't want to use, it's not realistic. I think when it comes down to it, it's just not realistic, and it's not what happens in actual relationships. So I would say ignore all that noise. And when you actually get married, I think what's nice is for you to know what your bills are, know what what you're accountable for, make that work in whatever percentage way you want to. Your husband might say, actually, I'll do 70, you can do 30, I'll do 80, you can do 20. That's fine as well. At least it means that you can support in some way, but still keep some of your money as well. But I think it's going to back to the money conversation. It's so important as a woman to have your own money. Like, honestly, I'm such a true believer of that because it gives you so much freedom. I can't imagine going to my husband and saying, can you give me money for X, Y, and Z? Like, I don't know. I personally was not brought up like that. Like, my dad has 4 daughters and 1 son. He has always, from day one, taught us, you are your own person. Like, you are independent. Get married for a partner to support you with family, whatever. But not for money. Like, that's not, he didn't ask my husband how much he earns. And that wasn't important to him at all. We have to be independent on by ourselves. And when you're like that as a woman, you don't actually care about those. Like, it's not important. You look for someone who's going to genuinely care about you and be there when you're up at 2 a.m. feeding your baby when you've just given birth. The rich man might not do that. You know, that's the woman that's chosen the rich guy will be struggling at 2 a.m. because her husband's sleeping, whereas the one that chose the less well-off guy has someone up with her all night. So it's not always about money. Choose character, and that honestly that will take you further.
I like that. And also, I agree with what you said because same, I'm like, I've been paying my rent my whole adult life. Why do you think suddenly I'm going to get married and be like, that's it now, all that money stays with me? That's not how it is. We've always been brought up to be independent. So now that independence is just merged with someone else. And again, is this idea that you're building a future together. You are partners of the same business now, right? That's it. And it's like, why would you try to sabotage your partner or the partnership, right?
It also feels nice to be part of building whatever it is that you're building. We have 2 kids, right? So we have an investment account for the 2 kids, and my husband puts it in for 1 kid and I put it in for the other kid. And it's nice to know that what I'm helping my child, hopefully 18 years from now, to have a little pot that they can use for whatever they want. And it's nice to know that I've contributed to that. And it's just, I don't know, there's something about having your own.
Yes.
and not relying on someone else. Doesn't matter who that someone else is. I don't know.
No.
Yeah, like my dad, I'll always ask because that's my father. My husband is my partner. We work together. It's just different. It's just different.
I know, and that's the thing. I feel like with my dad is the same thing, right? I have zero shame, like zero. My dad still makes jokes about this because when I was at university, he was like, every now and then I'll get a message, hey, you know, I only have £25 left in my account. And he was like, the number of times I got this message and I thought, what did she do with that money? But there's no shame.
Yeah, there's no shame.
Because, yeah, that's your dad, exactly. But, and I would do the same to my mom. Yeah. It's just parents are different. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, you should. Yeah. But with a husband, it's different. Yeah. And again, as you said, we've been independent our whole life. We're building towards, what are you building for? Yeah. For your next generation, for your kids, to have a better life than you have. Yeah. So I think it's only normal for this. Yeah. But now we're on this topic, right? So obviously, we talk about how women have evolved and now we're working. Some of us have better jobs than men. We're making more money than men. So do you think that feminism has had an impact? Obviously, it has had an impact on traditional gender roles in a marriage, but is it a good impact or a bad impact?
You know what? It's funny you say that because I was just thinking that I wanted to add to what we were saying before about something. So like, you know, it's also not okay for you to be working, husband to also be working, but then you're still full-time parenting. So there has to, if you're saying, you know what, I want to contribute, I want to be part of this household, it has the other part has to be shared, because that's not fair then. You know what I mean? Agreed. So there's one thing to be an independent woman, but then it's the other thing to have a lazy guy in the house.
Yes.
You know, like you're not a mum to a grown man.
Yeah, he's not the extra kid.
No, he's not the extra kid. So I think you have to also be wary of that. Like, don't be kind of walked over in that sense.
Yeah.
And I think feminism is great in the sense that we are able to go to work and make our own money, whatever. But I think in some instances it has made us do more. I was in Ethiopia, like I said just now, like 2 weeks ago, and I'm seeing my aunties and my cousins who are like my age and older. They all have jobs, like they all have their own businesses and they all work. But at home they have support, so they'll have like a nanny at home, and they're not rich. This is just the normal lifestyle there. So whilst they've gained that independence, which their grandparents didn't have, but they still have that help at home. Whereas in the West, particularly like in the UK, women's working 9 to 5, whatever, coming home to dirty clothes, uncooked, you know, like, and she's basically doing 2 humans' jobs in one.
2 full-time.
2 full-time jobs in one, and still paying financially for the pleasure. So I think that's a bit of an issue that I think I've seen now that I'm here in the UAE. I think women have more balance here because you have that help here. Mm-hmm. But you don't have that in like the UK unless you're like super rich.
Yeah.
Here you can have it even if you're not. Mm-hmm. So, and Ethiopia as well. So when I'm looking at them like, you guys have such a lovely balanced life. They're going to work and they're coming home to clean houses, food in the kitchen, kids, you know, looked after. And there's more balance in Ethiopia than there is in the UK, from what I can see. Yeah, I just think to myself, like, it's such, and they look at us in the West like, oh, I aspire for your life. And like, you actually don't. Do you know what we do? Like, from 6 a.m. to, they don't clean. They don't do it. And they're like, this is standard. They're not rich. Like, this is the standard, like, middle class, like, lifestyle. Yeah. So I think feminism in the West has downgraded women, I think, not the ones in the East. So that's something to bear in mind.
But you know, now that you've talked about this, recently a friend of mine who's an influencer here, she posted a day in the life where she's talking about how, you know, she goes out and does all of these meetings for her job, and then she's going shopping and stuff. And people were like, oh, must be nice to have a maid. And then she was like, I do have a maid. I have someone who takes care of the house because I have a full-time job. My husband has a full-time job, and we want to be able to spend time with each other. and I don't want to take on the extra work. He doesn't want to take on the extra work. So we have the funds and we're paying for someone to do this. And then that whole thing blew up, and you can see the hate that people have for women who choose to have paid help. And I don't understand this. It's like, you're not outsourcing your parenting. You're not outsourcing being a wife. You're just helping. It's support.
Reminds me, there was a TikTok that I saw a few months ago of someone who had a night nurse. I think they call like a night nanny or something. This was in the UK, but she was in the UK. So that's what makes it worse, because it's like, how dare someone in my country have a night nurse? And I was like, you know what? That's so smart. It just makes sense. Yeah. Obviously, if you're breastfeeding, you have no choice.
Yeah, but still, because my friend has one.
Yeah.
And she just wakes up,
feeds, and then fair enough.
She passes on the baby, right?
Yeah,
she can go back to sleep.
That's true.
You don't have to put the baby.
That is the hardest part, burping. That takes 2 hours.
I mean, you would know.
That takes so long. The feeding is like 10 minutes, and the burping is like 2 hours.
Oh my God.
You're just there like, go to sleep.
Come on,
just go. But it just makes so much sense, because you can then give your full self to this child in the daytime, and your family and your husband. Like, you don't have to be awake all night. But then again, if you share the responsibility, it can take off that burden.
Exactly.
So it's possible even without the help, but you have to have two people in the game. Like, you can't just have your husband asleep all day saying, I have to go to work. Well, so you've got stuff to do in the daytime too. You know, you're not just sitting around watching TV. I think people underestimate how much a mother, like a stay-at-home mother, has to do. Like, it's honestly a full-time job. It's a full-time job. So then you're now going to work doing this full-time job, then coming back to catch up on the full-time job that you missed out on all day. It's not fair.
So they're running around.
It's not,
trying to catch up on everything.
It's not fair. Yeah. So that's why you have to, like, again, these conversations should come before you get married. Like, what expectations do you have on me when I maybe become a mother? Do you want me to work, or like, what do you think about that? If just to understand that dynamic. If I do work, how hands-on are you? Look at his relationship. And you know what? I think you learn a lot more by looking at what the actions of that person than asking questions. Because people just say they'll just say what you want to hear. I'll do it all. Yeah, I earn 50k. Yeah. Like, but you know, do you know what I mean? Back to that 20k, but he's on 20. You like, it's you just look at the actions. Look at him and ask him, like, how's your weekend? He'll say, oh, I was with my nephews and nieces, took them to the park. Like, he took them to the park. That's sweet. Like, that means he can take some independence, take some kids out. Like, then you've got that box ticked rather than saying, oh, what do you think about kids? And he's like, yeah, I love them, but he's never changed a nappy in his life. Like, he's never, So it's always better to just observe, look at him in those situations before you get married. Ask him, like, how was your day? Like, I remember when I was speaking to my husband, one day we were talking, I was just on WhatsApp, I think, and I asked him, like, oh, what are you up to? He was like, oh, I'm in the kitchen with my mum, just like watching her make something. And I was like, okay, green flag. Like, the fact that he was in the kitchen, I think he was helping her with something, cut some onions or whatever.
That says more.
Yeah, and he actually does that on a regular basis. And actually, when we got married, he used to cook quite a lot.
Wow.
So I didn't have to ask the question. It's, what are you doing? I'm doing this. Okay, and that extrapolates into reality when you get married. So just ask the right questions.
But I feel I agree with you, but I feel like you had your head so screwed on that you knew what you're looking for first, right? And then you were assessing whether it is through asking the right questions or kind of like assessing, as you said, their actions. Yeah. But I feel like the list of things is what's missing with a lot of young people nowadays. Because when you look at how the rates of unsuccessful marriages are going up, it's crazy with our generation. I have friends from uni who got married at a young age and are now already divorced, which is crazy to me. And I think, what do you think is the like disconnect here? Why do you think there's so many unsuccessful relationships?
I honestly think it's like people that haven't managed expectations and that are basing their idea of a relationship on what they're seeing on movies, or actually these days it's more what you're seeing on social media. Like, I can even be the victim of it. I'll see a video of, let's say Valentine's Day, for example, someone having this like massive bouquet of flowers in their bed and whatever, and I'm like, oh, that'd be nice, like, because but then I think, actually I get that spread out all year. Like, all year I have it's like nice gestures. Like we don't do Valentine's Day, but we'd have like nice gestures here and there. We're going date nights, get massage, whatever. And I'm like, this person probably only gets it today. And it's perspective. And when you look at that, you think, well, why isn't mine doing that? So never look at people online and expect that, because when you start to do that, you compare your relationship to this fake made up one, and then you start to resent the person because you're like, oh, look, he or she, they're doing this.
Yeah.
Then you look at your relationship, you're like, well, mine's not good enough, when actually it's perfect. You've got all the right ingredients. You just need to stop looking at what's outside and what's actually not actually happening. So yeah, especially social media relationships, like a lot of them have broken up in the past like 5 to 10 years. And you just think, and a lot of them are quite surprising, because when you watch them online, you're like, oh my God, you guys look so good together.
Yeah.
You don't know what's happening behind closed doors. So don't compare your relationship to anyone else's. If you're happy in yours and your partner's treating you right, that's all you need. You don't need the flowers and the roses. Like, on it, you really don't. You really
I know,
don't.
and you know, with these things, right, the big gestures, are they being done with the intention that it is for you?
Yeah.
Or is it being done because it's going to be posted and I'm going to look nice?
Yeah.
Because I remember there was this really famous YouTuber who broke up maybe 5 years ago or something.
Okay.
And they did a video together to tell the world that they're now getting divorced. And I remember then she said, I don't know when you do special things, if you do them for me or you do it for the content.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, really imagine. Because really at the end of the day, if you're filming your whole life, your whole life is content. So obviously you will be planning everything. Then at the end of the day, you start forgetting the person who's at the receiving end of this. And yeah, which is why I agree completely. Like, social media is such a highlight reel. Everyone shows only the best things. And a lot of it is fake. A lot of it is produced to be that way. And it doesn't mean that people are happy behind closed doors, as you said.
That's why I don't put my relationship online.
Right.
Like, I remember when I first started vlogging, like probably 2018 or something, when I started more vlogging my daily life, I had a video of my husband and I did a Q&A and we sat down together and it was fine. It was all good. It did well. And then I just thought, I don't like this. I don't like the feeling of it. I don't want to have to have opinions on my relationship online. And to not have opinions, you don't put it online. Like, if you follow me on certain platforms, you won't even know I'm married or have kids.
Yeah, I didn't know when we met the first time.
No, it's not part, firstly, it's not part of my content. Yeah. Like, write an essay, oh, by the way, I'm married. It's not really part of my content, firstly. But secondly, I'm just sometimes you can separate the two. I don't gain anything by showing off my relationship. I'm not a daily vlogger. I'm not a personal life vlogger. It's not part of my content. So I'd be forcing it in. My kids, I don't show their faces. I don't put them online. They're not part of my content. They didn't sign up to have their life online. I did, and even me, it's not my life. It's about the academia, the AI, that kind of stuff. So I would also say, if you have a platform, don't put the details of your relationship online. Post your cute pictures, that's fine, but leave it at that.
I agree. And to be fair, I always think that when I see influencers, obviously everyone makes their own choices. Everyone, there's no right or wrong here. It's preferences. But when I see people who post in details, especially when they're having kids, the pregnancy, they take everyone on board with them. I was like, it feels so scary to me. I'm like, why? This is so private. Why are you bringing people you don't know? You don't know their intentions. You don't know why they are following you. They might not like you. And now suddenly everyone is in your business.
I didn't tell anyone about my pregnancy until I gave birth. Even work. I left work, maternity leave. I left at 8 months. I think I was 8 months pregnant. And I had my leaving day. And then my colleagues from my department were like, why are you leaving? I was like, oh, I'm pregnant. They're like, where? I wasn't really showing. Yeah, I was quite petite. So I wasn't really showing. They're like, what? Where? I was like, guess how many months? They were like, 4. I was like, no. And I'm like, 8. Like, what? And also, I'm lucky that I can kind of just keep going. I'm not I'm not really affected by it and things like that. So I was just, working as normal, doing my normal things. So they were just like, what? You're pregnant? Like, what? So I'm just in the belief that it's not even an evil eye thing. I'm not really one of those evil eye. It's more just, it doesn't need to be on. Not everything has to be online. And that's when you allow other people to comment on your relationship. And then people will say, oh, he's not treating you X, Y, and Z. But actually, you're seeing 5 seconds. You're seeing 10 seconds of my life, 30 seconds. Even 10 minutes of my day is nothing compared to the hours that we have in the day, right? So I keep it offline if you don't want the inner voice, the outer voice to become your inner voice.
Agreed. But also, you work with your husband now, right? Both of you run the Page Doctor together. So how is that?
It's interesting, because it all started like around COVID time. So we founded it 2020 November. So everyone was stuck indoors with their partners. Like it wasn't just us. So it kind of was nice because we were all in the same boat. The whole world basically was at home, working from home with their partners. So it was definitely interesting in the beginning, seeing him, because he was working from home with his job before he quit, and I was at home with my first child. So it's interesting seeing him at work, on the desk working, and hearing him have take calls. And it was weird to see him work.
Yeah, hear his work voice.
Yeah, it's honestly so weird. And then we started working together. And it's nice, but we're very different in the way that we work, which I find things that I feel like he's a bit too relaxed sometimes, too laid back with certain things, and I'm just like, has to be like this. I'm too kind of strict with certain expectations that I have. But then I actually think I need the balance. So then he'll come in and he'll be like, actually, no, let's do things this way. Let's automate things like this. Let's balance it out like this. And I actually need that kind of voice to be like, you know what, you're working until midnight, like what's going on? I need that. And if I had someone that was like me, we'd both be overworked. Just
true.
You know, he's got balance. He's definitely more balanced. Like he gets work done and then he's like, okay, now close the book. It's time to just chill. Whereas I'm like, I can keep going until my eyes close.
Yes.
You know, and it's not healthy. So I think it's nice to have that balance in the way that we work, and just even like our skill set. I'm more like, I've got the kind of academic PhD background. He's more like technical, analytical, like project management. So we kind of have worked together to bring those two skill sets into play to help us build the Page Doctor, basically. I can do like the content. He's not good in front of camera. He doesn't do videos and stuff. Whereas I've been doing it for ages. Right. So I'll make the videos and then he can work off of what comes through those videos. So you know, we kind of like help each other in that sense.
I love that. But you know, like running a business is like a marriage, to be honest. Like true. You know, Lamide and I run Pen together, and you know how interesting our relationship is. You know, just before you came, I was looking at her message. So she completely messed up one of her flights when she's coming for our event. And I forgot what she said. She said something to me, and I was like, yeah, I've already done that. And then she was like, why did you not tell me? This is why Tommy and Molly May got divorced. I was like, what? She was like, this is the kind of things that break up a relationship. I was like, well, I guess I'm Tommy here. I was like, wait, who was wrong in this? I was like, I'm the one who got wronged. So it is like running a relationship. And as you said, it's all about having very clear areas of expertise. So you have the final say, and then it's just about, again, working together. So, but then how do you make sure that, you know, your private, like your personal life and your professional life, there are boundaries and you don't take work to home, basically? That
was where he kind of had quite a lot of input because, like I said, I'm happy to just open the laptop anywhere that I am in the evening, in the daytime, and just kind of do. Whereas he was like, look, we actually had to talk about it. We sat down and we said, look, we need to make sure that after, you know, in the evening, the kids go to sleep, they've got quite a good routine, 7 p.m. We're not then stuck on the laptop. There's nothing we're going to do in the evening that's going to enhance the business in any way, right? So that's it. From this point onwards, we're closed laptops. Even if we're on our phone scrolling, showing each other videos, whatever, like we're offline, like we're off the work. And have like actually having a candid talk. And that's what I really appreciate about him. He's not afraid to say, this is how he feels about something, which I think a lot of guys don't. They kind of keep it to themselves and then later on kind of burst, right? And some girls are like that too, but he'll say, look, I feel like we're working too much in the evenings. I feel like this is this and that. And then I can sit down and be like, okay, cool, let's do this about it. And we can both kind of make a change. But communication is everything. I can't guess what you think. Like, it doesn't matter if you're married for 20 years. I can't guess what you're thinking. No. So it's always important to communicate. Like, be good communicators. Your kids will feel it. You'll feel it in a relationship, and it will make such a big difference.
Agreed. And I feel like we always project, right? So whenever something happened, a lot of times why people get upset is because they think the other person thinks like them. And they said that because they had that feeling behind that, but it's completely different, which is why communication is super important. So that's great. So just a quick word from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Muzz. Muzz is one of the leading Muslim marriage app with over 10 million Muslim singles online. So if you're also looking to meet your future spouse Islamically, privately and securely, please consider downloading the app. All the links will be in the description box below. But for now, I'm going to ask you a question. before we get into the fun part, one question is, you know, when you think of marriage apps, right? What do you think are the best features that kind of like are actually helpful for people to find their match on there?
You are open to a much wider pool of people than you would be if you were just sat at home or just going to the office or just going out with your friends, right? So that ability to reach out to so many people and be in front of so many potential, you know, individuals that you can get to know, I think is amazing.
I love that. Now let's get to the fun part. So this is the red flag, green flag segment. This is kind of like rapid fire. Yeah, I know. I should have had the. I should have had the flags. Right? Okay. So first one is, I think you kind of touched on this. So let's see. He's a bad texter, but great communicator in person.
Green flag.
You need to pick.
It's not black and white. It's not black and white.
I know.
Okay, let's say green flag.
Green, because as long as in person,
it's
he's
okay.
communicating, right?
Not everyone's good at that.
Okay. He promises marriage and the whole 9 yards, but is hesitant to talk to your dad.
No, red flag. He needs to talk to your dad.
Okay, perfect. Is a born flirt and can't help it.
A born flirt? Yeah. What's a born red flag?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's icky.
He's a 10, but he's very active on social media.
Red.
Should have been let me finish
social red.
Social media.
What are you doing on social media? How old are you?
Yeah, why are you on social media?
What are you doing?
I agree. Not us, both of us
Go
making money from social media. What are you doing on social media?
It's for guys.
For guys.
It's not for girls.
For guys. And finally, a great Muslim in every aspect, but doesn't pray 5 times a day.
Red.
Right.
That's a fundamental. You can't be a great Muslim. Yes, fundamental.
Okay, so these were the questions. I guess final thoughts before we leave you. What advice do you have for young people, young Muslim people who are looking for the one? What advice do you have for them?
My first advice would be build yourself up. Get yourself to a point where you are self-sufficient, both in your faith, in your career, in your life. You feel kind of complete within yourself. Then you look for a partner who will supplement your life, who will be your like life partner. You're not looking for someone who can complete you because you're broken. You are whole. You're looking for someone who can add to your life and make you 10 times better. And don't worry, it will come when it's meant to happen. Yeah.
I love that. But thank you so much. And hopefully we'll have you on again very soon.